Thomas Williams stood outside the gleaming glass windows of Precision Motors dealership, his heart racing with anticipation. The autumn wind rustled his dark coat, and he took a deep breath, remembering the long journey that brought him to this moment. Growing up in a small working-class neighborhood, Thomas had always been different. While other kids played football and dreamed of local jobs, he spent hours studying computers and learning about technology. His parents, a factory worker father and a school cleaner mother, had sacrificed everything to give him opportunities they never had. Through years of hard work, Thomas had built a successful technology company. He had started in a tiny basement office, working endless nights, developing software solutions that would eventually catch the attention of major corporations. His innovative approach and determination had transformed him from a struggling young entrepreneur to a wealthy business owner. Precision Motors was more than just a car dealership to Thomas. It represented something deeper, a chance to break through barriers that had existed for generations. He knew the history of this place. Founded over 50 years ago, it had always been owned and managed by white businessmen from the same tight-knit community. As he walked towards the entrance, Thomas noticed how people's eyes followed him. Some looked curious, others seemed confused. A middle-aged woman at the reception desk straightened her posture as he approached, her professional smile feeling slightly forced. "Good morning," Thomas said confidently, his voice steady and professional. "I'm here for a meeting with the ownership." Emma Parker, the receptionist, looked up. She was in her early 40s, with carefully styled blonde hair and a crisp blue blazer. Her eyes quickly scanned Thomas, taking in his expensive suit and polished shoes. Something about his demeanor suggested he was different from the usual visitors. "May I help you?" she asked, her tone professional but cautious. Thomas smiled, a warm and genuine expression that seemed to momentarily disarm Emma. "I'm here about a business transaction regarding the dealership," he explained, placing his leather briefcase on the reception counter. The lobby was immaculate, gleaming white tiles, modern artwork on the walls, and rows of expensive cars visible through the glass partitions. Everything spoke of tradition, of a long-established business that prided itself on its history and reputation. Thomas knew he was about to challenge the tradition in ways nobody expected. His journey hadn't been easy. As a black entrepreneur in a tech industry dominated by white males, he had faced countless obstacles. Investors who doubted his capabilities, business partners who underestimated his skills, and a constant underlying current of subtle racism that he had learned to navigate with grace and intelligence. But today was different. Today, he wasn't seeking approval or permission. Today, he was here to claim what was rightfully his. The soft hum of air conditioning and the distant sound of salesmen talking created a backdrop of ordinary business activity. No one in the dealership knew that their entire world was about to change. Emma's fingers hovered over the reception computer. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked, her professional mask slightly wavering. "Yes," Thomas replied calmly. "With the current ownership." Something in his tone, a mixture of confidence and calm authority, made Emma pause. She looked closer at Thomas, noticing details she had initially overlooked. His watch was expensive. His suit was tailored. His posture suggested someone used to being in control. Little did she know that within the next few hours, everything at Precision Motors would be transformed forever. Thomas adjusted his briefcase, feeling the weight of legal documents that would soon change everything. His years of hard work, his technological innovations, and his unwavering determination had led him to this precise moment. The lobby seemed to hold its breath, unaware of the significant moment about to unfold. Thomas Williams was not just another visitor. He was about to become the owner of Precision Motors. And his journey was just beginning. Tom Harrison watched the stranger approach with a mixture of confusion and growing irritation. As the senior sales manager, he was used to maintaining control over who entered the dealership's inner sanctum. This tall, well-dressed black man seemed oddly confident for someone who clearly didn't belong. "This is a private business area," Tom said, stepping forward with his chest slightly puffed out. His salt-and-pepper hair and crisp navy suit screamed old-school corporate authority. "I'm afraid I'll need to ask you to wait outside." Thomas remained calm, his eyes meeting Tom's with a steady, unblinking gaze. Years of navigating corporate boardrooms had taught him the art of maintaining composure under pressure. I'm here for a scheduled meeting with the dealership ownership, Thomas responded, his voice measured and professional. The lobby fell silent, with nearby sales staff stealing curious glances. Tom's face shifted. His professional smile became tight, almost brittle. He had worked at Precision Motors for over 25 years, and in all that time, he had never seen someone like Thomas claiming to have a meeting with ownership. I don't believe that's possible, Tom said, positioning himself deliberately to block Thomas's path. Perhaps there's been some misunderstanding. The underlying message was clear. Thomas didn't belong here. Thomas understood the game perfectly. He had faced this scenario countless times in his technology career, subtle barriers designed to discourage, to push him away. But today was different. Today, he wasn't asking for permission. Around them, the dealership hummed with typical mid-morning activity. Salesmen discussed potential deals, phones rang softly, and the smell of fresh coffee drifted from the break room. Nobody realized how dramatically their workplace was about to change. Tom's body language spoke volumes. His shoulders were squared, his stance defensive. He represented decades of unchallenged tradition, of unspoken rules that had kept certain people in their proper place. Sir, Tom said, his voice dropping an octave, I'll need to see some identification if you claim to have a business meeting. Thomas slowly reached into his jacket pocket, producing a slim leather wallet. He extracted a business card and some official-looking documents. The movements were deliberate, almost theatrical. The other sales staff began to notice the confrontation. Whispers started, subtle glances exchanged. In small, traditional workplaces like this, any disruption was immediately fascinating. Emma, the receptionist, watched with a mixture of professional concern and personal curiosity. Something about Thomas suggested he was no ordinary visitor. I believe these documents speak for themselves, Thomas said quietly. Tom's hand trembled slightly as he took the papers. His professional training fought against his personal biases. He scanned the documents, his expression changing from condescension to confusion, then to something approaching shock. The lobby seemed to hold its breath. 25 years of workplace dynamics were about to be challenged in a single moment. Thomas waited. He had learned long ago that true power wasn't about shouting or demanding. It was about quiet confidence, about knowing your worth beyond what others believed you could achieve. Tom's face went through a remarkable transformation. Confusion. Disbelief. A dawning realization that everything he understood about his workplace was about to change. I don't understand, he muttered, looking up at Thomas. But Thomas knew exactly what was happening. This wasn't just a business transaction. This was a moment of profound cultural shift. Precision Motors would never be the same again. The confrontation was just beginning, and Thomas was ready for whatever came next. The room fell silent as Thomas methodically spread out a series of legal documents across the conference table. Each paper represented months of careful negotiation, financial strategy, and a dream long in the making. Tom Harrison stood frozen, his earlier confidence completely shattered. The other sales staff clustered near the doorway, whispering and stealing glances at the unfolding scene. Gentlemen, Thomas said calmly, I am the new owner of Precision Motors. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. No one moved. No one spoke. Thomas's journey had been anything but simple. Growing up in a working-class neighborhood, he had watched his parents struggle against systemic barriers. His father worked double shifts at the local factory, while his mother cleaned offices at night. They had taught him that success wasn't about where you started, but how hard you were willing to work. Through years of dedication, Thomas had built a technology company from nothing. He had faced countless rejections, subtle discriminations, and barriers designed to push him away. But he never gave up. The legal documents told a story of strategic investment, careful planning, and a business acumen that had caught the previous owners completely by surprise. Each page was a testament to Thomas's journey, from a young boy with big dreams to a successful business owner. Emma Parker, the receptionist, stood at the edge of the conference room. Her eyes were wide, moving between Thomas and the stunned sales managers. She had worked at Precision Motors for 15 years, and nothing like this had ever happened before. Tom's hands shook slightly as he reviewed the documents. The seal of the local business registration office was clear. The signatures were authentic. The sale was completely legal. How is this possible? Tom mumbled, more to himself than to anyone else. Thomas understood the unspoken question. How could a black man from a working-class background suddenly become the owner of a prestigious dealership that had been in the same white family for generations? The answer was simple: hard work, intelligence, and an unwavering belief in his own potential. The other managers in the room began to realize the full extent of the situation. This wasn't just a business transaction. This was a complete transformation of their workplace, their expectations, their entire understanding of success. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked confused. A few, the younger staff members, looked intrigued. Thomas knew this moment was about more than just owning a car dealership. It was about breaking down barriers, challenging long-held assumptions, and proving that talent and hard work could overcome any obstacle. I know this is unexpected, Thomas said, his voice calm and professional. But I'm committed to making Precision Motors the best dealership in the region. I'm not here to replace anyone. I'm here to help us all succeed together. The words were carefully chosen. They were a bridge, an invitation to understanding. Tom's professional training slowly began to reassert itself. He straightened his jacket, cleared his throat. The initial shock was giving way to a reluctant acceptance. Perhaps, he said slowly, we should discuss the details of the transition. Thomas smiled. It was a warm smile, without a trace of anger or resentment. Just a genuine hope for a new beginning. The conference room, which moments ago had been filled with tension, began to feel like a place of possibility. Outside, the autumn sun continued to shine. The world kept turning. But inside Precision Motors, everything had changed. And this was just the beginning of Thomas Williams's journey. The board meeting room was quiet, filled with tension and unspoken uncertainty. 6 men sat around the polished wooden table, their eyes fixed on Thomas Williams. Each document, each signature represented a significant shift in their decades-long business tradition. Richard Thompson, the senior board member, cleared his throat. His glasses perched carefully on his nose, and his hands shuffled through the ownership transfer papers. At 62, he had seen many changes in the automotive industry, but nothing quite like this moment. Mr. Williams, Richard began, his voice containing a mixture of professional courtesy and underlying skepticism, we had no expectation of this transaction. Thomas sat perfectly still. His crisp navy suit and calm demeanor spoke of confidence earned through years of professional challenges. He understood this wasn't just a business meeting, this was a cultural moment. Precision Motors needs innovation, Thomas responded carefully. The automotive market is changing. We must adapt to survive. The younger board members exchanged glances. Some looked nervous. Others seemed intrigued by Thomas's composed presentation about technological integration and modern sales strategies. Thomas's journey hadn't been easy. He remembered nights spent studying computer systems, developing software solutions while working multiple jobs. His technology company had grown from a small basement startup to a multi-million-dollar enterprise through pure determination. Our sales have been dropping, one younger board member named Peter Miller admitted. Traditional methods aren't working anymore. Thomas nodded. He had studied their financial reports meticulously before making the purchase. He knew exactly where the challenges existed and how to address them. Digital marketing, online sales platforms, customer experience technology, Thomas explained. These aren't optional anymore. They're essential. The room listened. Thomas wasn't just talking about owning a dealership. He was discussing a complete transformation of their business model. Richard Thompson studied Thomas carefully. Years of business experience had taught him to read people. And something about Thomas impressed him, a combination of strategic thinking and genuine passion. How do you propose we change? Richard asked, removing his glasses. Thomas pulled out a detailed presentation. Each slide represented careful research, technological solutions, and a vision for modernizing the dealership. He wasn't just talking about selling cars. He was discussing creating an entire customer experience. The board members leaned forward, their initial skepticism slowly transforming into genuine interest. Tom Harrison, who had initially confronted Thomas in the lobby, sat quietly at the end of the table. His perspective had dramatically shifted. What he had seen as a threat now appeared as an opportunity. "We've been losing younger customers," Tom admitted. "Our traditional approach isn't connecting with new generations." Thomas's presentation showed comprehensive strategies, from social media marketing to streamlined digital purchasing processes. He wasn't just proposing changes. He was offering a complete roadmap for success. The younger board members were particularly engaged. They saw Thomas not as an outsider, but as a visionary leader who understood modern business dynamics. "Technology is changing everything," Thomas explained. "And Precision Motors can be at the forefront of that change." By the meeting's end, something remarkable had happened. The initial tension had transformed into collaborative energy. Thomas wasn't an intruder. He was a partner, bringing fresh perspectives and innovative solutions. Richard Thompson was the first to extend his hand. "Welcome to Precision Motors, Mr. Williams," he said, his tone genuine. Thomas shook the hand, understanding the significance of this moment. This wasn't just a business transaction. This was a breakthrough not just for him, but for an entire industry struggling to adapt. Outside the conference room, the dealership continued its daily operations. But everything had fundamentally changed. A new chapter was beginning. And Thomas Williams was ready to write it. 1 year had passed since Thomas Williams took ownership of Precision Motors. The dealership had transformed from a traditional, struggling business into a modern, innovative automotive hub. The showroom now looked completely different. Digital screens displayed interactive car information. Young sales representatives used tablets to guide customers through detailed vehicle specifications. The entire environment felt more welcoming, more inclusive. Tom Harrison, who once tried to block Thomas from entering, now worked closely with him as a senior operations manager. His initial resistance had transformed into genuine respect and collaboration. Emma Parker, the receptionist who first greeted Thomas, had been promoted to Customer Experience Director. Her understanding of traditional customer service combined perfectly with Thomas's technological innovations. Sales had increased by 42% in just 12 months. The dealership was attracting younger customers, diverse demographics, and tech-savvy buyers who appreciated their modern approach. Thomas remembered his parents' struggles. His father, who worked endless factory shifts, and his mother, who cleaned offices at night, had taught him the value of hard work and perseverance. They might not have understood complex technology, but they understood the importance of opportunity. "We're not just selling cars," Thomas would tell his team. "We're creating experiences." The local business community noticed the changes. What was once a traditional, somewhat rigid dealership had become a model of modern entrepreneurship. Thomas had proven that innovation wasn't about background, it was about vision. Young black entrepreneurs in the community began seeing Precision Motors as an inspiration. Thomas wasn't just running a business, he was creating possibilities. Training programs were introduced. Entry-level positions now focused on potential, not just previous experience. Thomas understood that talent could come from anywhere, and he was committed to providing opportunities. Richard Thompson, the senior board member who initially seemed skeptical, had become one of Thomas's strongest supporters. "We needed this change," he would often say. Thomas brought more than just technology. He brought a new perspective. The transformation wasn't just about business strategies. It was about breaking down barriers, challenging traditional thinking, and creating a more inclusive workplace. Local newspapers began writing about Precision Motors. Thomas was invited to speak at business conferences, sharing his journey of turning a traditional dealership into a modern, technology-driven enterprise. His story resonated. It wasn't just about one man's success. It was about the potential that exists when opportunity meets preparation. The dealership's team reflected this new approach. Diverse backgrounds, different ages, various skill sets, all working together with a shared vision. Thomas had created more than a business. He had created a community. Technology remained at the heart of their strategy. Online booking systems, virtual car tours, personalized customer communication, everything was designed to make car buying easier and more accessible. Thomas never forgot where he came from. Each success was a tribute to his parents, to the community that supported him, to every person who believed in the power of hard work and dreams. Success isn't about where you start, he would tell young entrepreneurs. It's about how hard you're willing to work, how willing you are to learn, and your belief in yourself. Precision Motors was no longer just a car dealership. It was a symbol of possibility, of transformation, of what can happen when barriers are broken and opportunities are created. The autumn sun streamed through the showroom windows, illuminating the gleaming cars and the diverse team that now represented the dealership. Thomas looked around, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. This was more than a business success. This was a life's mission realized. And the journey was just beginning.